It is all systems go for Euro 2024. The Tartan Army are in position, ready to do battle as Scotland take on Germany, the hosts, in the opening game of Euro 2024. And this is a match that everyone has us written off in. But as me and you both know, Steve Clarke's boys are not to be written off. We are no pushovers, and we're going to be giving every team in this group a real run for their money. And if Scotland were to get anything out of this game, optimism is going to go through the roof, and we're going to have a real sense of belief that getting out the group stages and making a real mark on this tournament could be possible. But it's not all plain sailing. There have been some last minute pullouts and some last minute adjustments, and some parts of this Scotland team are a little bit unrecognisable compared to some of the games we've seen in qualifying. In the video today, we're going to be previewing the game. How will Scotland line up? Can we get anything out of this game? And are Germany that big and scary? Should we be worried about them? At any point in the video today, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this as we cover the Euros all the way through the summer, as well as the usual summer transfer window stuff as we get set for all the European seasons when they kick off again. And get into the comment section on this one and let me know what your score prediction is. Will Scotland strike a surprise? Will we get something out of this game? Or is it that foregone conclusion? Are Germany going to get the victory? And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. International football is all about fine margins, and that's why I love Steve Clarke being the Scotland manager, because you always see it with a national team that really does have a great coach that's great at harnessing the potential of the players he's got at his disposal, as well as a guy that's just really smart at watching a game, looking at an opposition and realising how do we double down on our strengths to get the result, and equally what is their weaknesses. Is there any kind of way we can go and get a different edge in the match that maybe isn't that obvious? And all the way through qualifying, we've got great results against lots of different styles and levels of teams because of this. And this is going to be something that is going to be in full focus as we take on Germany in the opening game. And I do think that before Steve Clarke picks the Scotland team, he is firmly going to have the opposition in mind. Now, Germany didn't need to do qualifiers for this, obviously being the host nation. They played 2 friendlies in the warm-up to the tournament, and I think that these friendlies are the ones where you can start to get an idea of how they're going to line up in the tournament, what style of play Julian Nagelsmann is going to deploy, and equally, what is it we need to worry about as Scotland, and that's where the team selection starts for us. Because if you look at the Germany team that lined up against Ukraine here, it is covered, as you would expect, in world-class talent, but this isn't really a Germany team that we all would know and recognise. Thomas Müller isn't the same guy that he once was. There's no Miroslav Klose type, and really the way that they're going to be scoring goals and creating chances is very, very different to what you would say is typical Germany at an international tournament. We've seen Kai Havertz now translate that false 9 role he was kind of mastering at Arsenal into the German national team here, and we're seeing Ilkay Gundogan come into this kind of Frank Lampard attacking midfield position. And with him having Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala either side of him, these guys are not out-and-out wingers. This whole attacking department here is players that are really, really smart, really technically able. And the way that this Germany team is going to ebb and flow throughout the game is these guys are going to have full license to take up different positions, move into different pockets, maybe even double up on one side of the pitch to try and exploit maybe a perceived weakness that they think that we have in the game. And to get an idea of the best defence, the best kind of engine room part of midfield, I think the second friendly against Greece kind of shows that a little bit better. You'll notice the consistency in the attackers between both the friendlies. Not really much of a change-up or an alternate plan there. But Toni Kroos, Champions League legend, is here for his swan song. This will be his final games of professional football for this tournament. I think he will be the main, fulcrum of the team, as it were. And then the likes of Jonathan Tah, Antonio Rudiger, Nico Schlotterbeck, who's also just off the back of a Champions League final, as well as Mittelstadt and Kimmich. So this is a really formidable defence, but it is a defence that is going to be 2 centre-backs for the most part. Mittelstadt and Kimmich are going to be moving higher and higher up the pitch. Mittelstadt to try and give some width, and Kimmich to come in to try and overload into midfield. And really, the way Germany want to play this is elite level football, have fantastic athletes running in at different positions, being very tactically astute, and try and have us chasing shadows and try and create some openings and sucker punch and get some goals against the run of play perhaps, or through sheer dominance and just try and, really smother the game. That's really the big way that they're going to be going about this. Havertz will be dropping into midfield. Gundogan will be running into the box. There'll be a lot of different interchanging plays. We'll see the left back, we'll see the right back. All these guys taking up different positions and getting higher and higher up the pitch. And I think now that you kind of flavour how does Scotland try and set up against a team like this, it makes some of the decisions a little bit easier. Because I think throughout the friendlies that Scotland played, we've seen Shankland start twice, and this has given a lot of Scotland fans maybe some sort of perception that Shankland is now the number one forward. But the lack of pace that he has really does rule him out of this game for me. He's maybe somebody that could feature later on in the match. But if we are going to be a little bit deeper in the pitch, Germany are going to have a lot of possession, then the best way we're going to have to try and attack Rudiger and Ta or Rudiger and Schlotterbeck, who will be two defenders left to defend by themselves, is going to be with pace. And I think that's 100% going to be the job for Shea Adams. Now, in support of him, it's always going to be John McGinn. He's obviously not blessed with blistering pace, but he covers the ground really well. He always puts himself in a good position to be effective when the ball turns over to try and make the difference. But I do feel that alongside him, with McTominay being questionable, it's very likely he's going to start on the bench in this game. This extra spot here for me has to go to Christie. The likes of Lewis Morgan are still a little bit green behind the gills when it comes to being in this squad, being on the international scene, as is with Conway. And Forrest, I just don't think he's a guy that you could start in a game like this. So I think the front three really does kind of pick itself. Now, as we know with Scotland, it's a kind of box midfield out of possession. So the ability to kind of spring and counter-attack isn't just going to be down to Christie and McGinn, but it's going to be any other midfielders that could try and support them with that. And I think McGregor is obviously going to be the main candidate for that, with Gilmore sitting in ever so slightly deeper. So I do think that for the beginning of this game, there's not going to be a place in it for McLean, and Jack isn't playing much anyway. And I think these are all the easy decisions because we know we're not going to have the majority of possession and we need to try and manage the game. Can we get a goal early enough, or can we keep ourselves like a coiled spring ready to bounce if Germany turn the ball over? What space can we attack into with the likes of Robertson, who is absolutely nailed on, or whoever's going to be supporting us on the right-hand side? And for me, this is probably the biggest question mark of the team, because Ralston has played for Scotland a little bit over qualifying and over recent years. He has a little bit of international pedigree towards his name, but I know that McCrory was getting a lot of fans and a lot of plaudits in the Championship this year, playing in this exact position. Right mid, right wing back in a 3-5-2 type of shape. So between those two, and I would even add Porteous into this, I really do feel that the right back position or the right wing back or the right mid position is the one that is the real domino effect here, because we do know that Robertson is going to be our main man attacking down the left-hand side, the best left-back in European football over the last 5 years for my money, and he is going to be supported by Tierney. Now, Tierney is going to be the left centre-back, but as we know with Tierney, he is a left-back, and when we do really good, and if we are really getting a little spell of possession where we maybe put Germany on the back foot, Tierney is going to become a bit of a left back, as it were. But that's going to put a lot of pressure on whoever the rest of the defence is, because if Tierney does try and get up this side of the pitch a little bit higher, which, if you remember Germany's right-hand side, it's Joshua Kimmich and Jamal Musiala and whatever else, that could be a great route to go for us, is just focusing down on the left, down on the left, down on the left. And that's why I think if Porteous was named as the right mid here, or the right back, it then opens up a space for Hendry and Hanley to play, so that if Tierney is to kind of go up here and over and support, that the rest of the defence can just kind of crunch down and become a lopsided back four like you see in some other tactical shapes and systems. We did see a back four against Gibraltar, if memory serves me right. And I think that could be something that could happen. Now, I don't think that's terribly likely, but it is something I would want to put out there because I do think it could happen, and it's something to be mindful of. Jack Hendry has been a big presence for Scotland over the last couple of tournaments and qualifying periods, but it does feel that over the last two international friendlies, we've seen Hanley start in both of the games, which I think just about makes that position his. I think Steve Clarke will be getting some of these guys some reps, getting them warmed up, getting them ready for the tournament, and I think this probably is Hanley's position here alongside Tierney. I don't think Cooper's going to be starting this game, but Hendry and McKenna are in the frame somewhat somewhere. But with Porteous being in right centre-back here as well, just thinking about how Germany are going to be playing and all the rest of it, like, Porteous is a guy that I do worry could get dragged into an area of the pitch where he doesn't really want to be and be picked off a little bit, and then we're exposing Hanley and Tierney to like having to mop up the mess behind them, as it were, which does just make me think that having a second little bit of security behind Porteous and having him as the right back might be the way to go here. But I do think that conventional wisdom is going to be that this will be the back three: Hanley, Tierney and Porteous, which then does leave the final big question being the right wing back, the right mid. Now, I do feel that Steve Clarke is going to manage this game across the full 90 minutes. And this is part of the problem with kind of starting Christie and Adams, because the squad doesn't have that much pace on the bench. That's why Morgan's been called in. That's why Conway's been called in. So I do feel that the second half, or as the game goes on, we're dealing with less and less of a known element, known quantity in terms of the players, the style of play, and really what they will deliver for us on the pitch. And for Steve Clarke, like for me, I think you want to deal in as many known quantities, as many known elements as possible. And I think that's why McCrory probably won't start this game. But I think we'll see Ralston accompany Robbo on the wings here to be the wide support for us, because Ralston's shown he can put in a great shift going up and down the line. And he's a good enough crosser of the ball. Like, he'll put balls into dangerous areas, and it's not like we're trying to hit a target man or anything. This will be about playing the ball into the right channel or into the right area, maybe for the back post and that kind of thing, and then keeping yourself in a good position. It's not going to be about Ralston getting into the back post. It's going to be about being a bit of an advanced right back. But if you do see Robbo's going up in here, you're going to have to tuck back in and be a bit more conservative, as it were, and let the midfielders kind of pick up, try and turn over the ball, try and get into the face of the Germans when they try and collect the ball, and stop them getting out and attacking as much. But I do think Steve Clarke has a wee bit of an ace up his sleeve with some of the players he's called into the squad, that if we do keep the game tight, and if the Germans huffing and are puffing and they're not really getting anywhere, then bringing on Shankland doesn't add any pace or any electricity into the front line. But he can hold the ball in, he can play some passes. He has a bit of a fox in the box himself. If the ball is to come to him, we'll all be crossing our fingers and hoping he can put the ball in the back of the net. But by adding on the likes of Lewis Morgan, who could be playing on the left or on the right, or Conway, these guys have a bit more pace and a bit more drive. And, we see this a lot in football now with the 5 subs rule, but if you can just totally change your attack up and get a totally different style of attack, totally different style of play, and try and catch the opposition cold, this could be a lovely little sucker punch that could come into the reckoning. But it's only really going to be useful if we're still in the game at this point of the match. Because for me, for Steve Clarke, for Scotland, this game is always going to be about keeping it tight, keeping the scoreline to an absolute minimum so that we can play in the margins and try and take any opportunity that does come our way. And I think that's going to start with being compact and being defensively sound, not getting taken into areas of the pitch where we don't want Germany like dragging us into it to chase shadows around. But because we do have so many good Premier League elite level players, I think Steve Clarke will have the team set up very, very well to be that tight, to be that defensive, to be that resolute. Because the game plan in this is 100% going to be to keep the scoreline tight and to play in the margins. Can we sneak a draw? Can we get a goal against the run of play? Can we get a bit of a result here? But if we do that, we're not going to be beating Germany by 4-0 or anything like that. It will be like 2-1, 1-0, 1 each. It's going to be a scoreline like that. And I do think that with the best 11 starting, I would like to see us be even more confident in allowing Robbo, who is our real asset, our real artillery, to getting further up the pitch, a lot more freedom. And I think the best way of doing that is probably not by having like a Ralston or a McCrory at right back, but maybe more the Porteous, and sliding in on our centre back alongside Hanley here to be the kind of quasi back three as we get Tierney and Robbo a little bit higher up the pitch. And then as the game goes on, maybe we get a goal against the run of play, maybe we get some sort of foothold in the match. Then you can kind of use the players that we've got in the squad on the bench and actually have them give us proper use, proper value in the result. Whereas like if we keep it tight and we run ourselves ragged for the first 70 or 80 minutes and then the bench doesn't really give us much, if we do get a chance, it might not come to as much, So I'm really keen and I'm really eager to see the likes of McGinn, to see Christie, to see Robertson really early on in the match, with full vigour, full licence to go on and, get into the German faces and try and cause something, because I do believe we can get something out of this game, but I do think we're going to have to get something in the first half if we're going to try and get all the way across 90 minutes to come out of the game with a point or maybe even with all 3. I think this Scotland team scores 1 goal, maybe even 2 against the Germans. I'm not going to say no problem at all, but I do think we've got a goal or 2 in us. And it is really going to be a case of how many goals do Germany score? Do we keep them down to scoring the same amount of goals as we do? Or do they really get a big head of steam because they're the host nation and really make it a bit more embarrassing, let's say? But I think with the likes of Gunn and the quality that we've got in defence overall, I don't think we're a team that will be mugged off, like I said in the intro. So I do think that this game is going to be tight. And ultimately, if you were to push me, I think we're going to end up drawing this one. And I think it could be one that writes a lot of headlines and really does set the tournament off on that kind of vein of anything could happen. Don't write any team off or whatever. And I think a result like 1-1 wouldn't really do that. So I think this game, I'm going to go with this being 2 each.